Hi, Leanne. Welcome to the Ticket Podcast. Delighted to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, it's like flashing back 8 years ago when I interviewed you for your first job
Oh my
here.
God, no pressure though.
Yeah, no pressure. Exactly. I have a list of questions just like back then as well.
Amazing. Love it.
But today,
hmm
we were not talking about this 8 years ago, right? Today, we're going to talk about AI in customer service.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was talking about it 8 years ago. I might be very rich now,
Yeah.
but
All right. Well, let's dig in.
took in.
So this has always been important, right? Fast, effective, efficient service. But why is it even more important now in the age of AI?
Yeah, so, AI is a game changer. It's going to be a game changer for customer support. When we think about AI and how efficient and how fast it is, I think that what's going to happen now in the industry is that we're going to see um, a different type of customer support than we've ever seen before across all companies, right? It's going to be quicker, it's going to be more efficient, and as a result, people are going to expect that from all customer support companies, from all customer support experiences. So I think that it's super important that everyone who is in this industry really like embraces this and really like brings it on board with their support offering, because I think there's going to be like a baseline expectation now. I think that people are going to really like experience this in many customer support teams, and then when they don't experience that with the customer support team, they're going to be super disappointed. So I think that's going to be like really key.
Yeah, and like it's really good, right?
It's so
It
good.
has the
Yeah,
power to be really good, but
yeah,
obviously, like it does depend on how different companies implement it. You need to implement it well for it to be
exactly,
good.
exactly. Yeah.
But now I guess probably for you too, we've been involved in this for like over a year now. How do we effectively implement AI for customer service? And I've seen it be implemented so well in so many places for other companies and services. But when I come across a company now or like a service that I want to use, and either it's not implemented well or they're not using it all, I'm pretty disappointed. And I think that I represent like a fair, you
Yeah.
know, portion of customers out in the world right now.
100%. I think it's going to be become more and more obvious when it's
Yeah.
not done well,
Yeah.
right? I think that's going to be something that will be quite stark actually eventually. So I think getting on board, figuring it all out, making it work for your team is just going to be like so important, particularly in the next few months, because people are doing it already. It's already there. It's with us now. So, I think we need to get on board with it for sure.
Yeah, and that's like not to scare anybody who's listening
No.
who's like, I haven't done anything yet. My customers are going to think I'm terrible. But like now is the time to get on it, right? And
100%.
anyone who like hasn't yet, like this technology is not going away and it's only going to get better and better. So now is the time to really
Yeah.
jump on it and get going.
Totally. And look, it's a really easy time to get involved with it too, I think, because we're learning about it now. It's like, if you start to utilize this, if you start to get involved with this now, you're going to be part of the process of like giving the feedback to the companies who are rolling it out. Like, we're working with our customers at the moment and looking for feedback on how our beta is going. And I think that's really cool. So I think it's like a really exciting time to be a part of it as well. And that like we can be part of building this, which is really cool. So
Yeah, and I've actually spoken to a few customers over the past week who have made a career out of getting involved in this kind of change.
yeah,
So they were involved in, rolling Intercom out in the first place in their company and then embracing this AI technology and being able to show off the benefits.
yeah.
And like folks who get involved in this early and really show the benefit off, like that does wonders for their career. So I guess for anybody listening, trying to think about how to get ahead.
Yeah, totally. It's a
Yeah,
no-brainer, I think.
absolutely. Yeah. One thing our own team did when we launched Copilot was an A/B test, right, where half the team had access and half the team didn't to see
Yeah,
who was performing better. So can you tell us a little bit about how that worked?
exactly. So really we wanted to see, how effective Copilot actually is. We think it's really effective. Like the team have been talking about it and saying that it's really effective, but we really wanted to kind of like have two groups aside side by side to kind of see like, well, is it actually? What was really interesting about this study was that by taking away Copilot from a group, like they were distraught. They were so upset to no longer have access to this tool. And I thought that was really eye-opening. I knew it was effective, but I actually don't know if I realized quite how much people were like relying on it and finding the effectiveness of it so quickly. I think that was what was really cool about it. Um, and so some of the quotes from that group, I mean, they were just like, please don't ever do this to us again. Don't take Copilot away from us. Like it was actually like it was mad to see it. And then when they gained access to Copilot again after the study, they were just like so delighted and so happy. So that was really interesting. It was really interesting to see like kind of how much they had embraced it so quickly. I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, across the team, again, around efficiency is difficult for us to really like show. It's difficult for us to show really how efficient Copilot has made our team in their day-to-day, because previously we had no way of showing or seeing how long a teammate was spending away from Intercom searching, right? Because we had like all of these different places where you could find the answer. Like you could go and search through like old conversations. You might be able to see that a little bit, but you'd also have to go into Slack. You'd have to ask your teammate next to you, like, how long was that taking? Going through our resources. And I think what's really interesting now is that we'll be able to see how long it's taking a person from start to finish, how to handle a conversation, right? Because they can do it all in Intercom, and we can now see that. I think that's going to be really illuminating in the future. But it is tricky to kind of say, you know, look, the team is this much more efficient now, but I can tell by how people talk about it that it's completely changed their lives. And I think that's what's really cool. And I'm excited to kind of move to the next phase of it now, to kind of see, well, how can we be the masters of using Copilot, and how can we make it even more effective across the team day in and day out?
Yeah, and like the team being so sad to lose access to new AI technology, I love that
I know.
because there's so much talk in the industry about how support reps in particular are afraid of AI because of the idea of it like taking jobs. But here's AI working for them
Exactly.
and making their jobs more enjoyable, and they love it. And now that they have it, they don't want it to go away.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that AI is going to make customer support jobs better for the people in these jobs. I think it's going to make their day to day more interesting. They'll have those creative moments more. They'll be able to like spend more time thinking about how to figure out the more difficult, unique, like interesting, meaty problems to solve, which I know the team absolutely love, right? Because that like takes figuring things out. That takes that human touch that like is just so important. I think that's what's going to be like really interesting about the next kind of like the next few months, the next few years, and how we see this impact the industry in this way. Like, I think these jobs are going to be so much more interesting. People are going to have time to spend doing the more interesting things, the learning, the upskilling, the working, the building partnerships with customers. Like, I think that's what's going to happen in a big way, and really like digging into like how customers are using their products and that type of thing. So I think that's the key thing. I think that's what's really going to change everything, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. And when I think about the efficiencies and the positive effect that's going to have on customers, for customers dealing with an AI agent up front and they can get answers to their like easier and now actually more complex questions as well, but immediately, like in real time.
Yeah.
And then when they get through to a human, like we know that that might take that bit longer because it's more complex. But when the human is asking AI Copilot the question, they're getting their answer immediately instead of, like you said,
Yeah.
asking a teammate who doesn't reply for an hour or digging around in all these resources and not knowing where to find it. It's all coming together in one place where they ask the question and get the answer right away. It's like, it's incredible.
100%. And it means that we can have more meaningful conversations with customers, that we're not doing that like kind of like guesswork, that kind of taking a while to really get to the bottom of like these simple parts to the question. It's just like that stuff is all done for you. So now you can really sit down and like properly build these relationships with customers, properly figure out their like deep rooted problems and be creative with them in that way. And I just think it's going to make things, yeah, a lot better.
So we spoke about the team being sad to lose access to AI when we did that test, and sad is obviously the best form of data possible. But what about like metrics
Yeah,
data? Um,
totally.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's early days, and again, it can be a challenge to really show, like, in how people were working before and how they're working now, like the clear cut efficiency gains. But we're seeing some like really interesting early signals of people like being able to take more conversations, being able to like have more interactions on the conversations, which I think is really interesting because I think that's where Copilot has really been helping people more quickly get to the answers that they need, get to the information that they need, and to find the things that they're looking for. So I've been pretty positive and pretty like impressed with some of the early signals that I've been seeing, but there's like plenty more to come. And what I'm really interested in looking at, like I was saying before, is that handle time piece, which is that like now we will be able to see all of the time that is spent on a conversation, and we can confidently say that like this is how long it's taking to troubleshoot a certain thing.
Because it's all in the one tool. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's something that like we were really missing before. The team might tell us that like, look, this topic is really, really difficult topic and takes ages to troubleshoot. But we've no way of proving that and really showing that like this is a really difficult topic that we need to look at, and maybe we need to like have different KPIs for this topic or that type of thing. And so this is going to really help us dig into that. We're going to learn so much more about how people work, the type of work that they're doing. And so in that regard, like it's such a game changer. It's such a really important tool for us, for managers, I think, for CS managers across the board to have.
Yeah. And we're speaking about seeing some of the customers who are on the beta at the moment,
Yeah.
seeing like a 30+% increase in efficiency, which is huge. And obviously early days, we need more customers getting involved here to be able to test it all. But that's massive.
Yeah, it's huge. And again, I think this is going to be so big for certain types of companies as well, right? When you're thinking about those, I think when you have like repetitive kind of like the top 10 questions that come in, the same types of things being asked for a support team, like in those situations, in those companies, I mean, I think we will see even bigger numbers than that. Do you know what I mean? In terms of Intercom and our team and how we work, our types of questions that we get from customers are so varied, and we just have so many products, we have so many features, we have so many things to support, and that can be a little bit trickier. But that's where having the quick wins out of the way will really help. Having Copilot assist us in the day to day and in making sure we have what we need in the moment, like that's where that's going to be. So I see so many possibilities in so many types of support that people do, that this is just going to like completely revolutionize everything. It's amazing.
And can you talk a bit about what we're asking our teams to do now outside of working directly with customers? Because we are getting some of that time back.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really fun thing now that we're talking about. It's like now that we've freed up all this time, like what can we do with our team to make their jobs more interesting and to make us more effective as a support team? Like, I think that's the thing that's going to be really, really cool now to figure out. So, we were talking about this as a manager group last week. We had an offsite. We're looking at the future. What is human support going to look like in this AI future? So we're talking about loads of things. Like we're talking about like quality, like how we can spend more time making sure we know what the best quality is for these human conversations, right? So I think that's going to be really interesting to dig into. Again, we talk about like building these partnerships with customers, right? And making sure that like we are the thought leaders in what we're doing, that we're able to have these really valuable conversations with customers and really help them to get the most out of what they're using Intercom for. So I think that's going to be really interesting, is like building these partnerships with customers, and we'll have time to do that. I think in the past we've really struggled because we just had so much volume and so much like work to get through. And I think AI is just going to help us now to move the things that we don't need to deal with out of the way, right? The things that can be easily solved and easily helped. Customers are going to be happier because they're going to get the answers quicker, and our team are going to be happier because they're going to be able to work on the creative human work, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's really impactful work as well, right?
Right.
It's not just like fill a teammate's time with some, just because the time is there. It's actually genuinely future facing and really impactful for the business overall.
Totally.
I love that session we had last week in that leadership group that we ran together. It was so full of like what's possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like for years, the support team's kind of narrative and like, those kind of meetings that we've had in the past were very like focused on the restrictions.
Exactly.
And now it's focused on like the future and the amazing possibilities that is giving to us. I just think
100%.
it's
And
cool.
we actually spoke to the team in like our Monday morning kickoff this morning, like, and we told them about that session, and you could see like they were like, oh, this is. I don't think they thought about that as well. I think a lot of like sport teams are a little bit scared of the idea of AI coming in and maybe taking over the industry, but that's not the case. It's like, no, this is going to like be a partner with us. It's going to like help us in our human sport and make it better. And it's going to be just better across the board for everyone. So no, I'm super excited. I'm really excited for what's ahead. And I think the more and more that we talk about this, the more that the industry are going to also be really super excited about like what's ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
It's
great.
different though, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So like exciting, but also very different.
Yeah.
So we just need to think about like how we're going to measure things differently, maybe hire differently. Can you talk a little bit about that, like maybe in terms of hiring and performance management in this new world?
Yeah, totally, totally. And I think that's it too. Like looking at our team, we have recently restructured kind of our role titles, even, right? Because we want to adequately reflect the type of work the team are doing. They're technical support specialists, technical support engineers, because they're working on the more technical and the more complex issues that customers face. So that's just like one example. I think that we're going to really be looking at building like I think just like these roles are going to be more difficult. They're going to be focusing on the more difficult things that customers need help with, the more difficult problems to be solved. Like all of that is going to be super important. So I think that's going to come into it as well. And again, like when it comes to, KPIs, in the past, our KPIs have focused on like volume, how many conversations you're getting through, like that type of thing. I think it's going to move to a more quality focused, and handling time is probably going to be part of it as well. I think it's going to be like, I think we're going to look at KPIs in a whole different way. And I think that's going to be a whole challenge, an exciting challenge to figure out for the industry as well. I think quality will be a huge one though, for sure.
Yeah, and we're just scratching the surface.
Oh my
Like, yeah,
gosh,
so I
yeah.
mean, we don't have it all figured.
No,
We're Intercom, but
I
we don't
don't
have
have
it all
all the
figured out.
answers yet,
Yeah.
but we will soon.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what actionable advice do you have for support leaders who are just getting started in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to bringing like AI into the team's day to day, I think there are certainly things that need to be kind of considered. Making sure, for example, that like the resources that your AI is using are all up to date, that they make sense, that they're relevant to what the team are using. That's super important. You want your AI to be working with the correct information. I think that's like a huge important thing. But in terms of actually getting your team to adopt using AI, we've been super like amazed by how quickly the team were like obsessed with this feature, right? Um, so I think it's going to be a lot easier than people actually might think. I think once the team I think once the team saw the value in having AI as a partner, and that it wasn't a case of like AI coming in and taking their jobs, I think people have realized, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like going to completely like change how we do our day to day. So in terms of like advice to leaders, I think it's like, you know, make sure that you understand how this works, make sure it's working properly, but also it's going to be a lot easier than you think to get adoption, and it's going to be like really amazing across the board.
You had also asked some folks on the team to get involved in the really early stages, right? To test out those features as they were being launched or like when they were in beta. And they were the folks who kind of brought the others along on that journey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's always like a really good approach to bringing in anything new. I mean, across the board. But with our team, we had like a tiger team of people who got involved and who were like power users of Fin Copilot. And they were then like raving about it to everyone else. And I think that was really cool. And I think having kind of like product champions like that, like, is just is a really key thing to rolling out something like this. And then just like, sharing the really good examples has been like really cool as well. So, we have a more tenured teammate on our team who's been on the team for like over 7 years, who had an amazing experience with Copilot, and was really amazed actually because she thought that maybe because she was more tenured she wouldn't get as much value out of it, and had this amazing experience getting information that she said she would not have gotten had she looked this up herself. So sharing that with the team, I saw more and more of the more senior people on the team start to use it after that. So I think it's just like showing the great examples, having the product champions. I have a couple of people on the team who, in particular, are really, really using Fin Copilot as a partner in their day to day. They're like asking like follow-on questions, like kind of like sanity checking things, like just making sure that like what they're doing, what they're thinking is like along the right tracks. And that's amazing. So I think like for me, the next step now is to have what they're doing and bring that across the team and really build the like experts of using the tool, which I think is really cool. So yeah, I think having those like product champions is really like key as well. And having like peer-to-peer feedback across the team to like show the real value of it really helps.
Yeah, I love that. I love that the tenure teammates are getting such use out of
Yeah.
it because there is, I suppose, preconception that this is for newer people who don't know the answer or don't know where to find the resources.
Yeah.
But to hear, yeah, those folks who've been here ages and probably know the answer to most questions off the top of their head are still finding it really useful too.
That's why I was really like impressed with those examples, and I think the more and more people are using it, the more and more we're seeing that type of experience like coming out from it. The other thing is with the newbies, what I'm finding is that like with the newer teammates, they're actually just getting more confidence. They already know the answer, but Copilot's helping them to say, yeah, that is the answer. And like it's helping them get into the inbox quicker, which is really, really cool to see as well. It's like a confidence builder, which is really great. So it seems to have like really good impact for the different roles and the different tenures across the board. And I think that's what's amazing about it as well.
Yeah, and I love that piece that they have Copilot there as their teammate to
Yeah.
ask a question of, because everybody knows when you start in a company first, you feel like you're bothering people when you're asking them questions over and over again.
Yeah.
But like Copilot doesn't care.
No, like
Copilot
Copilot's
wants you to ask.
delighted. They want
Yeah,
to be asked. Yeah, totally. It's
yeah,
amazing.
cool. Can we just go back to the knowledge piece again? You touched on this a few minutes ago, but knowledge and good content,
Yeah.
being really, really up to scratch to ensure that the content that your team is coming across with Copilot is actually correct.
Yeah.
Can you chat a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, it's like key with anything that we talk about. Like there always has to be the human in the loop, I think. When it comes to like really how we're going to really utilize AI across the board, there has to be like checks, and there has to be a system where like we really trust where AI is getting the answer. That's how we're going to make it work, to our best advantage. And that's how it's going to just continue to get better and better. So I think it's really important to make sure that, and again, like by, giving more time back to the team, they're going to be able to do this more, which I think is really great, is like making sure that like they're checking, they have systems to check the help center, that we have systems to check like our history, our conversations that come through, that like everything is correct in there, that the answers that are given by previous teammates are correct, and quality is going to feed into that too. So we're just going to like come into this place where we have the time to do the checks, to make sure the resources are totally amazing, that then AI can then help us in the way that it needs to help us. But that's so key. And again, like I say, that human in the loop piece is so important when it comes to all of this. And we're going to have more time to have that important human check, that important human support for the resources for AI. So I think it'll all work out really well in that way.
Yeah. And just in terms of the previous conversations, because I've had chats with customers about this and they actually have some concerns about that.
Yeah.
Like it's cool that AI Copilot can go back and look at previous conversations from teammates and suggest those answers to folks who are looking for the answer to a question.
Yeah.
But there's questions around like, how do I know that's not out of date now or that the person was right in the first place?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a real concern, and it's definitely something that like we'll need to have systems in place to make sure that like we're constantly checking this stuff. Again, quality is a huge part of this, making sure that you're like reviewing conversations, that you're reviewing people's work, like all of that is super important as well. And I think though what I mentioned before is about getting really good at using AI, right? It's not a case of just like asking a question and pasting the answer. It's about like really understanding like where is this coming from, asking follow-on questions, like being the human in the process, I think that's going to be like really important as well. So it's all about like really becoming an expert of using AI. I think that's the next thing. That's what we all need to get better at, right? And I think that's going to be really the next project for us all.
Yeah, and even when I think about the functionality that we're looking at in terms of like trying to add some checks and balances to it,
Yep.
even just like within the machine itself, for say the previous conversations, we're putting like a time limit on that. Like you
Yeah.
go back, I'm not sure what the time limit is at the moment. It might change by the time we go to full
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
But only conversations from X amount of time ago, or
Exactly.
like maybe as time goes on, only conversations from these people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that's it. Like, I think that's a really important aspect of it. You can't just like give it, the
Free range
entire
everything.
history of everything. Sure, everything, like our product changes so often, and it's the same for many companies. So, yeah, I think that's like a really key point. And I think, again, as we continue to roll this out, as we continue to get feedback from people, like we're going to learn like how to make this as trustworthy as possible. And that's going to be the same across the industry, which I think is really cool. So, super exciting.
Cool. Okay, Leanne, thank you very much.
Thank you.